Real wellness isn't built in a moment of motivation. It's built through what you do consistently, even on the days when you don't feel like it. This is Saturn self care, not punishment, not hustle, but discipline as devotion. And I want to repeat that discipline as devotion. Self care, yes, it's what we all think it is. It's little indulgences, it's bubble baths, it can be retail therapy. But the one thing that typically doesn't get included with self care is discipline. Discipline tends to be a dirty word. But self care is definitely an ongoing thing. And if it's something that's ongoing, discipline has to play a part of that by default. So, in this video, I'll be discussing how Saturn really fits into your self care routine and how to take advantage of this planetary energy. So, if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. So, welcome to day 14 of our 31-day Wellness and Astrology series. And today we're talking about Saturn. Now, Saturn is the planet of structure, boundaries, responsibility, discipline, endurance, long-term health, and sustainable care. Like I said, you don't typically find Saturn and self-care in the same sentence. But what's important to understand is that Saturn governs the practices that keep you well over time, not just what feels good in the moment. I think that often we think of self-care as an indulgence, as something that we do every so often. There's no rhyme or reason, there's no structure to it. It's just, okay, I'm feeling a little whimsy today, let me go get a facial. Whereas those who take wellness seriously, and it doesn't mean that if you don't do this, you don't take wellness seriously, but typically those who do take wellness seriously know that it has to be ingrained in your daily routine. It's not something you do every so often. It's something that you do regularly, not only for the physical benefits, but definitely for the mental and emotional as well. And of course, if we're talking about routine, if we're talking about consistency, we cannot help but talk about Saturn. So if Venus soothes and Jupiter inspires, then Saturn sustains. I feel like Saturn always gets a bad reputation because it's a tough planet, don't get me wrong. I like to mention it and I like to refer to it as the school of hard knocks. It's the planet of obstacles, challenges, and delays. But Saturn can really be your best friend, not only just talking about wellness, but just generally. When you learn how to use Saturn, Saturn will not only create order in your life, but Saturn always leaves you with a gift as well. And so that's something to really think about. But in terms of self-care, consistency is your best friend. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to break the bank every week in the name of self-care. I mean, unless you want to, although Saturn probably won't let you, if I'm being honest. But it's about infusing rituals, practices, specifically things that are designed for you to help maintain your wellness. And again, Saturn can help you with that immensely. So here's the common misunderstanding. Most people resist Saturn because they associate discipline with restriction, rigidity, punishment, deprivation, pressure, shoulds, sacrifice. But without Saturn, wellness becomes inconsistent. You try something, then you stop when life gets busy. You restart after you're burnt out, and then you repeat the cycle. Saturn, especially in the realm of self-care, helps to break that loop. It asks only one question. What can you realistically commit to every day, or every week, or every month? That's where real healing begins. So Saturn is very much concerned with being realistic. We may want to do all the things, and we've all been guilty of this, right? Where it's like, okay, it's a new week. I want to get on new regimen. So I'm going to start in the morning by taking hot water, lemon, and ginger. And then I'm going to take liquid chlorophyll. And then I'm going to take all my supplements. And then I'm going to exercise. And then I'm going to journal. And then we come up with these. I'm laughing because I'm very guilty of this. We come up with these routines, we come up with these regimens that are great, don't get me wrong, but are they sustainable? Usually not, right? They're too extensive, they take too long, they can be a little inconvenient, and therefore they don't fit into our regular routines. And so when things start to get busy, or when we get triggered, or we just got a lot going on, that routine falls by the wayside. And then invariably we get burned out and we rinse and repeat, right? Saturn is like, hold up. Okay, I get it. You want to live a healthier lifestyle. So what can we realistically do to not only begin doing that, but sustain that over the long term? Because living a healthy, engaging in wellness for the purposes of physical health, it's not a one and done kind of thing, right? It's an ongoing endeavor. It's a lifestyle change. And one of the words that you invariably hear when we talk about lifestyle change is habits. Saturn directly correlates to your habits. What do you do on a daily basis? How consistent can you be? Saturn definitely helps you with that. And people typically like to shy away from that because they feel like Saturn is restrictive, right? It makes you have to sacrifice things. And, from the first person to tell you this, I apologize, but sacrifice is typically the name of the game, especially when it comes to something that you want. There has to be some sort of sacrifice. Everything costs something, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's energy or effort. Saturn helps you get realistic about what that cost is and helps you factor that cost into your daily life and your daily routine. So this is why I felt like I couldn't not talk about Saturn in the realm of wellness, because we all want to do the things. We all see social media with these influencers and their lengthy skincare routines and people who wake up and do an ice plunge and then journal and play the fucking flute every morning, right? Like we see this happening a lot. But realistically, what can you do in your life to sustain your wellness routine? And of course, not only Saturn, but your natal chart has the exact answer to that. So here is how each Saturn element practices self-care. So of course, we begin with the fire Saturn. So this means you have your Saturn in either Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. You need disciplined movement and consistent action. Meaning, movement has to be a part of your daily routine. And it has to be something that is consistent. Like going to the gym should really be non-negotiable for you. And it's interesting because you could have a fire Saturn and maybe you don't have any other fire planets. So movement may not be your first instinct. But if you are talking about wellness, the way to sustain any sort of wellness routine, I'm talking about even your skincare routine, your nutrition, movement, if you have a fire Saturn, would have to be a part of that equation. You tend to struggle with boredom and rigidity. And this is where you could perhaps feel disconnected from your Saturn because you may view it as rigidity. And yes, rigidity is sort of your nemesis, but when in doubt, move your body. And so your wellness practice entails short daily movement rituals that build strength over time. Think weight training, strength training. That would definitely be a great addition to your wellness routine. Next, we have the Earth Saturn sign. So this means you have your Saturn in either Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. You need routine, predictability, and structure. Now, Saturn typically tends to thrive here because Saturn is the planety, Saturn is the planet of routine, predictability, and structure. So regardless of what you do, it has to be structured, it has to be routine. It may be something that you want to do at the same time every day in the same order. Little OCD-ish here might not be that bad, okay? You tend to struggle with overwork and also rigidity. Now, rigidity for fire Saturns makes them feel restricted. For Earth Saturns, rigidity is you are too rigid, you're too disciplined, you're too immovable, right? And you also tend to overwork. So even if you're creating a routine, you tend to do the most. You tend to be like a drill sergeant when it comes to these things. Now, your wellness practice consists of consistent nutrition or nourishment, rest, and body care built into schedule. Again, like a to-do list, scheduling is going to be your best friend. Next, we move on to the air Saturn sign. So this means that you have your Saturn in either Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. You need mental structure, clarity, and boundaries. So one of the things that I want to point out is wherever Saturn is for you, whether fire, earth, air, or water, you need structure regardless. Like Saturn will not let you get away without being structured. When we talk about air Saturn signs, it's that mental structure. It's getting things to make sense. Whereas a fire Saturn will do things based off impulse. An earth Saturn will do things based off routine and consistency. An air Saturn needs it to make sense. What you're doing needs to make logical sense. Also, you may need to understand what the result is going to be. Like it has to make logical sense to you. You're not going to engage in a routine where you don't know what the result is going to be, where you're not clear on its benefits. Like that's definitely what you need. You tend to struggle with scattered focus and inconsistency. So you and the fire Saturn signs could really find it difficult to get structured consistently. And for you, as soon as your focus wanes, as soon as it doesn't make sense to you, as soon as something else garners your attention, you'll likely become inconsistent with whatever you're doing. Now, your wellness practice is daily mental hygiene. This includes your output and your input. So journaling, lists, limits on stimulation, limiting distractions, being very mindful of what you are ingesting mentally will be your best friends. And last but certainly not least, we have the water Saturn signs. And this means that you have your Saturn in either Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. So you need emotional boundaries, containment, and safety. You guys feel very deeply, intensely, and, big emotions are very much a part of your energy signature. But a water Saturn sign requires boundaries and containment. It's like those emotions have to be contained. So that means that your routine may be limited to something very specific within which you can contain those emotions, something that makes you feel safe, something that allows you to express yourself without being too vulnerable. You tend to struggle with emotional overload and avoidance. For you, if it doesn't feel good, you'll just avoid it. If it triggers you, you'll avoid it. If it's too emotionally stimulating, you will avoid it. And your wellness practice entails scheduled emotional check-ins, rest, and grounding rituals. Rest is your best friend. Rest should definitely be a part of your wellness routine, and Saturn will not let you avoid it. So let's briefly talk about what happens when Saturn is ignored. Now, think of the archetype of Saturn. Saturn is like that stern father figure. It can be tough. It can be challenging. It definitely displays tough love. And in terms of wellness, when Saturn is ignored, that is definitely kind of what you experience energetically. So when Saturn is neglected, wellness suffers quietly. And this is important. It's not like you're going to be crashing out. It's going to be this slow relinquishment of wellness, okay? So it shows up as chronic stress, physical stiffness, exhaustion that builds slowly, resentment toward routines, avoidance of responsibility, and feeling unsupported by your own life. There's no worse feeling than that. I've experienced that, where you feel like not only is your life not your own, but life is like taunting you, or you're just so disconnected from your own life. That's a very tough place to be. But when you're in that place, it becomes painfully apparent that you've got to get back on track, and Saturn is the planet that can help you do that. So in this instance, when we're talking about wellness, Saturn doesn't necessarily punish. Saturn responds. If you don't create structure, life will, and often through stress. It's one of those situations where, you've got to do the difficult thing either way. You might as well get it done with early and on your own terms rather than getting dragged. And that's the essence of how Saturn works in this wellness space. Wellness requires discipline. It requires routine. And if you're the type of person who needs constant stimulation, needs constant excitement, gets bored easily, or doesn't want to stick to a routine, Saturn will really take you to task. And so will your physical health, or your mental health, or even your spiritual health. So in this vein, Saturn cannot be ignored. And it's not to say that Saturn becomes the crux of your wellness routine. It's just that Saturn can tell you how to make it consistent. Now, if you've got, let's say, Saturn in the 6th house, or maybe even the 1st house, then yes, there is the characteristics of your Saturn by sign will tell you what your wellness routine could be. It could be nutrition. It could be journaling, right? That would depend on the sign that Saturn is in for you. But regardless of wherever you have Saturn, the characteristics of that Saturn can contribute to how you create structure when it comes to a wellness routine, but also how you create structure with everything that you do. Everything that I'm talking about is not just in a vacuum. This is a wellness and astrology series, obviously, but I want to demonstrate, and I think I've done this throughout my various series, about how the same planet can contribute to different areas and different topics of our lives in the same way. It evokes the phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And Saturn will tell you how to have structure in your life generally, how to have structure with your money, how to have structure with your wellness. I hope that point has come across, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to convey. I'm just doing it in different buckets of topics. But Saturn is structure, point blank, period. And the most important part about this video is that self-care not only requires structure, but is necessary. We can't skimp on it. We can't skip out on it. It needs to be a part of our daily lives, and Saturn helps us do that perfectly. So now I want to get into this quick 5-minute Saturn self-care ritual, okay? Now, this is something that's meant to be done regularly, so take notes and be prepared to lather, rinse, and repeat, okay? So this is a Saturn-aligned daily ritual. So step number 1, choose one, and literally, I have this in all caps, one habit you can do even on your worst day. Remember, Saturn's question to you is, what can you realistically do? This isn't Jupiter that's talking about, what are you hoping for? What are you optimistic about? Saturn is like, listen, you've got 4 kids, a full-time job, and a side hustle. What can you realistically do on a daily basis? So please be honest in answering this question and in choosing one habit that you want to focus on. Step 2, attach it to something you already do. Wake up, eat, sleep. If you need to take daily supplements, you may want to take them. You may want to keep them right next to your toothbrush so that once you finish brushing your teeth, you immediately take your supplements, right? Something like that. Saturn will always appreciate and work with hacks that will sustain you, hacks or tips or anything like that that can help you sustain something over the long haul. Saturn absolutely loves those. But yes, attach it to something you already do on a regular basis. Step number 3, do it at the same time daily. And hello, this is something that comes very naturally to Earth sign Saturns, but consistency is obviously the realm of Saturn, but Saturn also governs time. And to really tap into the energy of time, doing this thing on a daily basis at the same time is really maximizing that Saturn energy. Step number 4, track consistency, not perfection. This means, remember, going back to step 1, Saturn was like, choose one habit that you can do even on your worst day. Tracking consistency is like, listen, showing up. Doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be the best, but at least if you show up every day, that's a win. And you should definitely be tracking those. And then step number 5, let discipline feel supportive, not strict. One of the hallmark characteristics of Saturn is that it's very much associated with success, with crossing that finish line. Saturn is not just giving you issues and problems and delays and things of that nature for no reason. It's building the character, building the strength to cross that finish line. Imagine that you're training for a marathon. How much must that suck? I say that as someone who's not a runner, okay? But having to train consistently, having to eat well consistently, having to build up your stamina is very much about Saturn. But the whole point of that is because you're training for a marathon. You're keeping the end goal, you're keeping the finish line in mind. And in that way, discipline can become supportive and inspiring as opposed to just strict. You're not doing this for no reason, right? I always say about Saturn, it's like, first you do your homework and then you get to play. And it can be really difficult to sit there and do homework, especially if it's arduous, right? When you're not keeping the end goal in mind. The end goal is graduation, right? The end goal is getting that diploma. But you got to take the little daily consistent steps to get there. But keeping the end goal, keeping the finish line in mind allows discipline to feel supportive and not strict. Okay, so that's basically the 5-step Saturn self-care ritual, all right? But most importantly, what I want you to remember is that Saturn loves commitment you can keep. I'm going to say that again. Saturn loves commitment that you can keep. Saturn absolutely hates when people commit to things and then don't follow through or can't keep the commitment. That's when Saturn will likely wreak havoc in your life. And so to avoid that and to appease Saturn, if you commit to something, be devoted to it, be disciplined enough to be consistent with it and keep the commitment that you have devoted yourself to. Saturn definitely runs a tight ship. Saturn's very much like a drill sergeant, and Saturn will always draw your attention to leaks or inefficiencies. Now, again, Saturn doesn't require perfection. You don't have to show up perfect every day, but you gotta show up. And oftentimes when things in our lives aren't particularly going to plan, aren't particularly focused, aren't, I guess, going the way that we would like them to, looking to Saturn, perhaps not just for the issue itself, but more so how to remedy the issue is very helpful. Saturn will always show you how you are designed to get on track. And that's important. And much like I've stressed throughout this entire series, it's about how you are designed. Yes, discipline is a thing. But discipline comes in different flavors and different forms. And of course, it really depends on how Saturn is placed in your particular natal chart. So if you find that you're having issues with commitment and consistency, or if you just want to tighten things up in your life generally, it doesn't mean that you have an existential crisis. It doesn't mean that you're going through something completely arduous. Maybe you just want to be better at whatever you're doing. Look to Saturn in your natal chart, and that will help you understand how you're designed and what kind of discipline you need to get back on track. And if you want assistance with that, then you should definitely consider signing up for my signature natal chart experience, the Blueprint. This is essentially a natal chart reading plus a transit report in one. So you get a 60-minute live reading with me, a private online client portal filled with resources, plus you get a 30-day alignment map, which is a transit report for 30 days past our reading, so you know exactly what to expect and when to expect it. So if you're interested, if you want to learn more, the link is in the description box below. The first step is to sign up for a free 15-minute clarity call with me. That way we can discuss if this service is right for you, and if so, how to get started. And again, the link to that is in the description box below. And if you haven't signed up for my self-care signature quiz, what are you waiting for? It's a cute little fun quiz that helps you understand your self-care signature archetype. All right. And if you're interested in that, the link is also in the description box below. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.